Brother Beyond with Be My Twin, which leads us into the link between those two bands. Hello, Nathan Moore.
Hey, Jules, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good. It's that song, I've got to admit, I first met you, I think it was it in December or January, wasn't it? I think I met you. Or December.
Yes, it was, mate.
January,
yeah.
And as your warm-up, you sang Be My Twin, and I've got to say, that is one of those tracks that you kind of forget about because everyone sort of pigeonholes you with The Harder I Try. And for me, that was just a sleeper. And I heard you sing it, and I thought, wow, I'd completely forgotten about it. And I've got to admit, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine at the moment, that is.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the songs that was written by the songwriters in the band. And, you know, it was funny the way it all came about for us working with Stock Aitken and Waterman, because we were signed as a band with songwriters in it. And one of the songwriters, I mean, there must have been talent within Brother Beyond, because one of those guys went on to write Leave Right Now for Will Young and Chasing Pavements for Adele.
Wow.
Warwick Avenue with Duffy, and that was Egg White. And then, you know, he's written with Take That, and, you know, James Morrison, he's won an Ivan Novello.
Wow.
But at the time, he was a teenager, and I think he was in the early...
to us all.
But, you know, those songs like Be My Twin, you know, those are the things. We already had an album of songs ready, but we just had this opportunity came to work with Stock Aitken and Waterman, and we ended up doing those two songs, The Harder I Try and He Ain't No Competition, and I get that's what we are known for, really. You know, that kind of Stock Aitken and Waterman sound.
Yeah, and that's a great link actually to Coventry, because Stock Aitken and Waterman, Pete Waterman is a Coventrian.
Is he really? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I associate him with up north kind of thing, you know.
Well, I suppose
near where Rick Astley kind of emanated from.
Yeah, I suppose if you're in London, anything north of Watford is north, though, really, isn't it? You know, so, and they were based in London at the time. But yeah, Pete was a very successful DJ in a nightclub in Coventry called the Locarno, which later became Tiffany's and is now the Library. So read into that what you will.
I mean, I did a lot of clubs with Pete, because I mean, as well as working with Stock Aitken Waterman, he got us to do the pilot for the TV show The Hitman and Her.
Yes, remember that.
And I ended up doing that about 7 times with him. But it was always in places like Blackpool or Mr. Smith's in... where was that? Well, it was in the north anyway, you know. But yeah. So, we never did Locarno's in Coventry, I'm afraid.
No, it's before my time and definitely before yours. I mean, that's just one thing that I want to touch on, by the way. I know that you are a few years older than me, not much, but you still look like you're in your early 30s. How do you do it?
Mate, it's called not taking on any stress. All right, staying fit and healthy and having good genes. A bit of a combination of all of that, and you know. I stay okay, you know.
Boyish good looks. Let's just go back to Stock Aitken and Waterman, the experience then, because they were the hit factory. You know, what a roster of artists. And if you look at like the PWL gigs now, you know, Rick Astley, Jason Donovan, Kylie Minogue, Sonia, to be amongst, you know, such names as that, to be part of this machine which was just churning out hit after hit after hit, and people coming in and wanted to work with them like Donna Summer and Bananarama. And you're part of that stable. What was that like?
It was great, and you know, if I have one regret, is that we should have done more with them, but it was sort of complicated because of the band being songwriters. But no, we'd actually done songs like Be My Twin and Can You Keep a Secret, one of our other singles, in their studios south of the river, and we were working with one of their other producers, but they'd have this traditional drink on a Friday afternoon in the pub just around the corner, and we had a chat with Pete and then a pint with him and Mike and Matt, and I don't know, it just must have stayed in his head. And then there was some strange industry charity auction, and at this dinner EMI bid, you know, £25,000 for a song to be produced by Stock Aitken and Waterman.
I've heard this story, yeah.
And that was our stroke of luck. EMI bid the money, got the thing, and they had a discussion, and I think Pete said, well, why don't you let us produce your band Brother Beyond? You know, we've met them, we like them, we think we can do something with them. And it was kind of that lucky moment. You know, I think without that, I mean, we'd already had 4 singles out. They'd only got to like 43s and 54s and stuff like that. I think we'd
Smile and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you know, nice songs, but you know, I think we were about to be dropped, and so if it wasn't for that stroke of luck, I don't think you'd have ever heard of Brother Beyond.
Yeah, synergy. That's the, so things happen for a reason sometimes, I guess. And one thing that I always recall the first time I heard "The Harder I Try" it reminded me very much sort of like almost like a soul-soul-y 70s sound. Was that something that was being aimed for deliberately? Because that's what it just reminded me of musically, like a modern interpretation of it.
Well, Pete always wanted to sort of replicate, you know, Motown with what he was doing with PWL. So it was kind of his homage to it. He thought this song's going to have a Motown influence. And so just to really, you know, put the cherry on the cake, he was granted the rights to sample the drum roll from This Old Heart of Mine and put it on the record. And that classic drum roll starts the song The Harder I Try.
Wow.
So he got permission to do it, and that's his little nod, his little tipping his cap to all the Motown, you know, hits and how they influenced everybody and people like Pete.
Fantastic. And you mentioned songs like "Can You Keep a Secret" and stuff like that. Now it's a few years further on, but can you tell me, were there any secrets at Stockacre or at PWL of any of the other artists? Let's get some gossip.
Were there any secrets? I don't know really. No, nothing that sort of absolutely leaps out. You know.
All of a clean, living bunch of people.
Look, I think, I mean, for sure. I mean, they had a few arguments in the end, but I think they kind of, you know, made it up. I think it's okay now.
Yeah, that's good. And then obviously, sort of like Brother Beyond sort of went their separate ways. I think it was around 1990, if I recall, something like that.
Yeah. And the second album didn't work out, and then we just were dropped, like you do, you know. So you know, 1 minute I think we're on TV on the Saturday, you know, one of those Saturday morning shows, and then on the Wednesday we were dropped, and that was it. You know, and it was quite tough.
Wow.
And I had a few years out in the wilderness, and but I kept plugging away. I think that's one of the things that, you know, you hear people say you've got to keep going, and I really did.
Yeah.
And I didn't get another break till about 3.5 years later. Now most people would have given up by then, but I kept going around with trying to do solo stuff and TV things and all like that. I took my solo work into this management office, and I was speaking to the manager from Simple Minds.
Wow.
But through the glass window, the guy that manages Worlds Apart happened to see me, recognise me, and he thought, oh, look, okay. And he just happened to have a situation where the lead singer from Worlds Apart had left. Right. And he had a gig in 5 days' time in Germany. He phoned me up. He got my number. He phoned me up, you know, after I'd left the meeting, and he said, look, I've seen you in the office. Look, can you come and speak to me? I need to put something to you. Went to see him, and he said, look, I need a new lead singer for Worlds Apart, but I need you to say yes now or no now, because I've got a gig in 4 days.
No pressure then.
And 4 days later, I was in Germany doing my first gig for Worlds Apart in 1994.
Wow. Now that's one thing about Worlds Apart. I think only really the one hit over here, I think, wasn't it, from memory, which we just played, Everlasting Love. You could probably correct me. But in Europe, totally different story. Yeah,
I mean, we couldn't get away here in the UK. It was the first band that was put together, or rather the second band that was put together by Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell cast the band with Gary, the manager.
Yeah.
We couldn't get away. We got out of our contract, but we were doing starting to do stuff in Germany. We recorded this song called "Baby Come Back" with these German producers, but it became a really big hit in France, and that was the one place where we really took off, and that hit, and then the next one went to number 2, and then we did a song in French, and then that album, we had top 5 singles off it, so
wow,
it was great, you know.
And you speak French, do you?
Je parle très bien le français, oui, you know. No, I don't. My French isn't fantastic, but when Worlds Apart ended up recording in French, we had to kind of get our act together a bit, and so I can speak stage French, and
that's all you need, I'm sure.
And there is some French people listening that we need to say hello to.
Yeah,
I know there's Liddy in France is listening to the show right now, but I also know Freya in Freiburg, Kirsten Freya in Freiburg is listening, and Claudia in Poznan, Poland is definitely listening. So hello to everyone out there. Connected via Worlds Apart, I think.
And that's one thing that I've got to say, that my Twitter page has gone absolutely nuts, and the amount of friend requests I've had on Facebook and new followers just because I've said you're on this show. You've still got this very, very loyal fan base, and that's, after all these years, that I think that's a great thing, isn't it?
It is, and it's a great thing about Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. I can get everyone to gigs and say, right, look, I've got this gig on, I think it'd be really good. When people want to meet me, they say, well, what's the best gig? So I try and say, well, at this one, I'm very accessible, literally you can touch me, and it just gets everyone together, and I'll get feedback, and, it's just a great way of communicating. And via that, lots of the fans that were there in '96 when we arrived in France are still there now. And they come to all the shows when Steve, Cal, and myself, get together for these shows that we do every now and then,
And it was his birthday last week, I believe, wasn't it?
It was Steve's birthday, yeah.
The whole Europe thing, I said to my wife's from the Czech Republic, and I said, Nathan from Brother Beyond, who? And I said, Worlds Apart. She, Worlds Apart. I used to have a poster of them on my wall. So
that's it. Yeah, French people, they have known. They're nothing about Brother Beyond.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because of that success, a lot of kids are called Nathan now, or Nathan rather. It's really right. It was the number one name at one point in France, because of the band's success, which is funny. It's like one of those little things. That, no one would know about.
Yeah, well, I think my name came from the Beatles song "Hey Jude," so I can kind of see where that's coming from, because that was about Julian Lennon. But you were saying there about being accessible and what have you. Now, when I saw you perform at this Here and Now weekend, I have never seen anything like it. One, you can really sing. This is great. And accessible. You actually got in the crowd and started doing ups upside your head. The security guards, it's a nightmare for. But one thing I loved about it was the fact you were saying to people, put your phones away, let's have a party, let's enjoy ourselves. And it was just so refreshing to see that interaction and the level of, look, I'm not just here as a photograph, I'm here to perform, let's have some fun together. And you actually went into the crowd, which I thought was absolutely
it's
phenomenal.
Kind of my thing. I'm very interactive, and I like to make my shows a little bit different to other people. So very rarely do I just stay on the stage the whole time. I kind of make it like a party. So if I'm in a private party when there's 50, 100 people, I get in amongst people. I don't just stay in my zone. And people love that, and it's just my thing.
And it was absolutely brilliant to see. And we've got a gig together in May at Bognor Regis. We're doing it all again, and I'm looking forward to that again.
They're great, aren't they? The Butlins gigs. It's so fantastic because everyone there is there for the same reason. They want to go back to that time of their youth, and these are the acts that were part of that, and they come all dressed up, and they come absolutely pissed, which helps too. But you can never have a bad gig there. You can never have a bad gig because it's rocking all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies for the language there, but also on that gig we've got ABC. We've got Blow Monkeys and Pat Sharp, who's on the show next week. Pat's a great guy, so I'm looking forward to speaking to him next week as well. So brilliant. So where can people find out about what you're doing nowadays and where your gigs are?
Well, the easiest thing, just go on my website, and it's always got my key dates there. In the Midlands, I've got Let's Rock Birmingham, which is in June, about June the 9th, which is great.
Oh, brilliant.
That's a good one. This weekend, I'm at Pontins in Southport, so it's a little bit further north. And then the weekend after that, it's Pontins Canberra Sands. Then then there's things like Chill Fest. I've got Chill Fest July the 9th that's with the Human League and Tony Hadley. That's going to be a really good one.
Excellent.
That's in Hertfordshire. And then I'm doing the Sunshine Festival. That's in Worcester. That's in August. But that's with people like Mud and Susie Quattro. Like, there's a real mix of retro acts on that one. So that should be fun, because Tiger Feet by Mud was the first record I ever bought. So,
wow, mine was Blondie Denise Denise. So that's
I think yours is a bit better than mine. Really.
Well, the next one I bought was Captain Beaky and his band, but I don't talk about that.
Oh, what? What's that?
Anyway, you can check out your website, which is nathan-moore.com. You can find out all about Nathan there. Brilliant speech, Nathan. I look forward to seeing you again in May, and I think we'll play The Harder I Try. If you'd like to introduce it, you'd be my guest.
Thanks for having me on your show, Jules. Okay, everybody, this is Brother Beyond and The Harder I Try, which was number 2 in 1988, kept off the top by Mr. Phil Collins. I'll be having a word with him when I catch him on some sort of promotion sometime soon. But anyway, enjoy, people.
Brilliant. Nathan Moore, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you, mate. Catch you soon.
Thanks, buddy, no problem. All right, catch you soon.
Bye-bye.
Right.
So on Radio Plus, that was Nathan Moore, and this is Brother Beyond and The Harder I Try.